Hello everyone, we are back again in Leaning into the Network series. In this series of Leaning into Network, we are meeting people who are working in sustainability and environment sector. Today we have with us Dr. Jasmine. She is head of CSR Sustainability and Occupational Health at Shublaw Foundation. We are very happy to have Dr. Jasmine. Welcome, Dr. Jasmine.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Madhvi.
So, my first question to you is what is nature for you and how would you describe Mother Earth?
Uh, for me, nature is bountiful. It is something which has got everything that we need, but not for our greed. I think that is something which is my interpretation. Um, it is something that you can draw upon whenever you want. It's has creativity, it signifies balance, and it just teaches you as you go along in your life's journey. You can always draw upon it, learn lessons, and it's about diversity, it's about togetherness. Living together in harmony is what I would describe uh, nature.
Yeah. So, when and how did you feel this deep connect with nature? When did you discover it? It is always there, but was it something happened and then you discovered it, or you were always connected to nature?
See, as far as nature and earth is concerned, it is a mute, stakeholder. You don't notice it automatically. Something has to touch you, and that's how you kind of get into a discovery mode. So, as a young child, I used to go during the summer holidays to my paternal grandfather's village, and at that time it was just fun because you got to go into the fields, you splashed in the well, you milked the cow, you ran behind chicks. So at that point it was just about fun, and nature was fun and nothing else. But when I started my work in the rural areas, I was really enamored by the way people use their farm products, the harvest. Every single bit was, made use of. Whether it is for composting, they had innovative ways of storing it. So I felt the connection between the rural people and nature very, very close. Then when I worked in BIF, I was really touched by the way we can harness nature as well as protect nature for the well-being of all. But the main striking point came when I went for river cleaning programs with my daughters. We used to volunteer in a nearby river. And when I saw over there the pollution and the fact that you could find every single thing from your drawing room, from your kitchen, in that river as a pollutant. And that's how kind of it was a wake up call for me that in addition to so many other needs that are there, environmental aspects and what you can do for protecting the earth is very important, and it is a real wake up call. So I felt that we need to work on it closer and very closely with the people, and to ensure that we bring about change. So though it began with fun and a discovery of the bountiful nature, it ended up looking at the sad state of affairs in the river that finally kind of struck a chord, and I strongly felt the need to do something significant to make a difference.
Yeah. So you mentioned briefly how you started doing the work that you're doing, but we would like to know more. What was your journey so far? How you started working with Suzlon Foundation or BIF, your journey in
Right. So basically, like, as a youngster, I got into medical college, finished my MBBS, and then I was very much fascinated by preventive medicine or public health, and I completed my MD. When I worked with the WHO on the polio surveillance program, I got an opportunity to go into the rural areas. And that was the time when I watched very closely the rural folks, the issues that surround the rural people. In that, there was one instance when I used to be tracking the paralysis cases in the communities, and also conducting immunization programs. Once there was a incident where a family was against polio immunization and did not want their children to be immunized. And it was at that time, though I had all the technical knowledge, I was really at a loss to convince the family. And it was at that time there was an elderly lady who approached the community. She talked to various individuals in the village. Finally, the group convinced the family, and we were able to vaccinate successfully. So, this particular thing, I was fascinated because it was an illiterate elderly woman who was able to garner the support of people in the village to make the program successful. So I was really fascinated that there are so many things on which we could harness the local knowledge, the collectivism of the people, key leaders in the village to make a difference. Following that, when I worked in BIF, I learned the interrelationship between health and other aspects like environment, livelihood, because my narrow mindedness that I am a doctor and I need to work on health issues was something that faded away because I quickly realized the interrelationship between the various aspects and how working on one issue we can make a difference on the other. And this was also something that I realized when we were working in Rajasthan in the CSR Suzlon program, where we ended up making water harvesting systems to ensure that water scarcity was addressed and water availability was addressed. But when I met the lady and I asked her that, are you happy now that you are able to access water close to your home? And she said, I am happy because it has changed my life and the life of my daughters, because now they're able to go to school. So because otherwise they were going for hours to fetch water and were not able to attend school. So the interrelationship between the various developmental aspects became very clear. And this was also something that I picked up along the journey. And of course, in Suzlon, I got a great canvas where the Suzlon Foundation was just beginning. So there was a lot of flexibility. We have a vast geographical area to make a difference. So whatever I had learned as a doctor, as a public health specialist, and in my interactions with the rural communities and what I'd learned at BIF, all put together, just simply came together at Suzlon.
So a lot of work that you're doing involves community and working with villagers, and not just working for them, working with them. So what does what meaning does community hold for you, and how did you plan how the village development program was planned and executed? What was the journey of that specific program?
So I think community for me is everything. I am happiest when I am amongst them. The communities, they have really taught me creativity, resilience in the face of everything. When you go into the villages, you will see smiling faces. You will witness hospitality with whatever is available with them. This is something which you cannot experience elsewhere. And I cherish all of this. And I'm actually very grateful to the rural communities who have let me come into their lives, who have shared their vulnerabilities with me. In the community, you actually, it's a teacher. The whole space is a great learning experience, where you can imbibe the learnings from the village areas, and you can actually give back to them. So that is a wonderful bond that I have with the communities, and I really cherish that. And I think that's why I love the work that I am in. As far as planning and executing the various developmental initiatives is concerned, through my professional career and in being with the different organizations, what I learned and what most people in the development sector would agree is that we had to go with an empowering approach, an approach where we would involve the communities and build institutions, so that whatever we do is not piecemeal, it is not one-time intervention. And therefore, we decided that we will put all these learnings into practice at Suzlon. And in the Rural Development Program, we began by bringing people together at the very beginning. We spoke to them as if they were partners. And we said that, we cannot just come in as donors, giving you something in the form of charity and then going away. We would rather come with you, along with you, in this your journey to address the issues which are there in your village as partners. So we formed village development committees, and these village development committees, we strengthened them in a very systematic manner through 7 phases, where they start working along with us in planning, in implementation, monitoring. Then we would provide them with an income generation option, which would give some funds. Then they would be able to sustain themselves even when we exit those communities. Also, the basic needs, the basic priority needs of the villagers were articulated by them. So we never had any particular program which was fixed and we went with that program to the community. It was something that evolved from them, articulated by them. And me and my team, we have always believed that they have so many ideas and solutions. It's about bringing them together, catalyzing that, rather than advising and saying that this is the way to go. So this collectivism has really brought a lot of solutions to the forefront, and the community participation has been good, because of which complicated issues, simple issues, we have been able to find solutions, and we have quite satisfied stakeholders in the village communities.
As you mentioned, you and your team, you have launched quite very simple yet effective solutions. So one of them is Zero Series. So would you like to tell us more about your Zero Series?
Yes. So when we enter villages and we talk to them about what are the current issues that are there in your village, mostly the group that articulates these issues talks about basic needs like water, livelihood, etc. But usually these groups do not articulate the needs of the poorest of the poor, even within that poor village. They do not articulate the needs of specially abled. They do not articulate the needs of senior citizens. And therefore, in all of this, the issues and needs of these absolutely neglected groups within the village is unaddressed. And so when we started our work, we realized that somewhere we were missing that out. So me and my team, in our team meetings, we brainstormed and we thought about that we had to do something about it, and we launched the Zero programs. It started off with zero garbage, because we used to find plastic everywhere in the community, and garbage was never an issue that was articulated by the villagers. It was more on water and other things, but never garbage. So we launched the Zero Garbage initiative so that we could tackle the garbage situation in the community, the plastic situation in the community. We also noticed that senior citizens had cataract. There were so many old cases of cataract. Even though government has got a proper blindness control program, people were not aware. There was nobody to take them to the hospital. So we thought we should work on it, and we launched the Zero Cataract Blindness program, where our plan was to ensure that every single cataract blind case was treated. And then we thought there was another issue, which was the lack of power supply in the village. There were communities which did not have an electricity connection. And we are a power producing company, so we thought of going in for Zero Darkness initiative, where solar based power systems were provided to these families. Zero sparrow deaths came about because we know that environment is a mute stakeholder and is not represented. Birds are very important for the agricultural livelihood that is practiced in the rural areas. And so it was also simple, low cost, but highly impactful. So we launched the Zero Sparrow Deaths initiatives, where bird water trucks, bird nests, and bird feeders are installed in different places. And this is with the community and also with the employees. So it makes for a very good volunteering program. We also launched the Zero Tolerance initiative, where we did a small pilot and we now have to upscale that. This was to ensure that any abuse, sexual abuse in the rural context, gets highlighted, is articulated, and the police and others are alert and ensure that we can take care of it as well in the rural area. It's a very small program and we have just begun this. And finally, the zero chemical program, where we are trying to convert farmers and prevent them from using chemical fertilizers and rather harnessing all the potential available for natural organic way of farming using available resources and a little bit of know-how which is easily available these days, but to mobilize the farmers and to change their farming practices. Also, there is a very, very important zero program close to my heart, that is the zero dependency program. And that is, we have mapped the specially abled persons in all these villages and slowly trying to help them get the resources that are available with the government, which is available with other organizations, trying to connect these specially able to them, and also mobilize resources so that we can support mobility devices for these specially abled. So the zero programs basically are the special programs which we want to ensure that the most neglected groups of the community can have their needs addressed. Yes, and the zero malnutrition program, which caters to the malnourished children, trying to bring them out of malnutrition by supporting the families and bringing about behavior change within that family. So we have also done that pilot and we are just waiting to scale it up. So these are some of the programs.
Very happy to hear the what feeling I'm getting after listening to you, that this development is not just one sided, it is holistic. And at Ori Kalankini we also encourage our fellows to consider all the factors, not just consider one factor and find out solutions. So this holistic view and holistic approach is very much needed, and it is very well planned, and you have mentioned it quite clearly, so that is very inspiring. Thank you very much. One more very simple and very effective solution, which I also saw one video on YouTube, and I'll also link that video on this section. The hook, it is a simple thing but it made a huge impact. So please tell us more about the hook.
Yes, so this hook is a very interesting innovation, and it just came about because of the strong urge that me and my team felt about doing something and not just sitting around. So like I said, when we launched Zero Garbage, we wanted to rid the village of garbage. That was very clear, but resources are always constrained, and we have to look for innovative solutions. So as a team, all of us brainstormed thinking, how can we make this possible? It's all right to have a great program, but how do we make it possible? So we said, no, we have to do it. So each one had to come up with different solutions to make it possible. And in my team, we have one team member called Sanjay Shivadas, and he is now, we call him as the scrap master of our team, because he gets very excited whenever he sees some scrap, some waste lying around. He's always thinking of making something innovative out of it. So when we were brainstorming, he came up with this idea that in the past, in the olden times, we had these bills and small pieces of paper that was stacked away on a metal body. It was pierced through a metal and stacked. so that it doesn't get scattered. Even nowadays in different hotels and all, you will see them stacking their bills on that metal piece. So he took one small piece of metal, he turned it into a hook and put a string at the end and started putting plastic paper in it, and stringing it like uh, a garland. So this, he said, we could use for plastic collection, and we really found that would be very appropriate, practical in the village setting. So we started experimenting with one village, and now every household in over 200 villages has this hook. It is no cost because it itself is made of a waste metal, waste string, and you don't have to do anything. This was picked up by my other CSR managers and taken to different states, and now we have over 200 villages where this is being practiced. It was easy for households to collect the plastic, hang it. It was easy to store. And when it was collected in the village, on a periodic basis, there was a tie-up which was established with the plastic waste collector, who would come into the village and pick up that plastic. In some villages, they would carry it away for no cost. In some villages, they would uh, make some product out of it, and as a token of appreciation would give back a piece of pipe or some article back into the village. So in this manner, it kind of unleashed a campaign where now everyone, young and old, wanted to pick up the plastic using the hook. Now, most important in this particular innovation was the manner in which we went about it, because by itself, it is not going to make a difference. We had to first convince the villagers that cleanliness drive, just taking, jhadu and sweeping all over, is not going to make the place clean in a sustainable manner. Tomorrow again, you'll have to do it. But the best way to do is to ensure that plastic waste and wet waste and dry waste is segregated at source. And this hook helped to segregate the dry waste, the plastic waste, very easily. We had also to convince them that the value of segregating plastic, of collecting and managing plastic, is huge, especially in the rural area, because animal is their wealth. They have great regard and great value for livestock. The plastic has been a menace because the animals would consume, they would fall ill, they would die, the drains would get clogged, and all of this disease and death of animals resulted in huge debt and loss of livelihood for the rural people. So we connected that loss. We calculated that you are losing animals worth thousands of rupees, but you can actually prevent that by just using a hook and collecting the plastic and preventing it from coming back. We also supplied them with cloth bags so that they would stop and reduce the use of plastic in their communities. So with all this, the hook played a very important role because we had a tool, we had a solution on which we could bank upon to convince people that they can make a difference, in their lives. And in this, I would like to mention that my team members, because they are very innovative, they adapted this hook to suit the villages that they were working in, and the NGO partners who were working with us were also very excited, and they played a huge role in ensuring that this particular innovation was successfully implemented. So it brought us all together, and yeah, it's a very, very interesting thing.
Yeah, truly. like everyone worked together and a simple thing created magic. So, in your so many years of your work in this sector, what changes have you observed in people, whether it's a rural community or your NGO partners or your colleagues? What changes have you observed?
So in the rural communities, I have seen that first of all, it's both positive and negative. In the rural communities, I think the lifestyle changes have come about, some of which are not so healthy, some of those are not so environment friendly. Uh, as you all know that the usage of plastic has gone up very much in the rural area. The foods that they consume has also undergone a lot of change with the urban influence and so many other economical factors. But on the positive note, the creativity of the village community is growing by leaps and bounds. They're also adapting to the new way of life. They are struggling and striving very hard, working very hard to ensure that the returns from their land, from their animals, is worthwhile. So they are adopting newer technologies. They are open to that. The generations have seen a lot of change in the village, and I can see that they are positively adapting to it. They're open to linkages with the government, with the various departments. In general, I can see that they have become more creative. Even technology penetration has been high now in the rural areas. And of course, it should grow more. So, this openness of the village people over a period of time is something that is very positive, and I have seen that change. As far as NGO partners are concerned, I think they've become more broad minded. They are also very open to new skills. Initially, when we worked with certain organizations who were doing only in working in a particular sector, for example, only agriculture. And when we had launched the Zero Cataract Blindness program, they said that, probably they will not be able to handle that particular program. And for us, it was a dilemma because we cannot get so many NGO partners into one village, one with agriculture theme and another with health theme, etc. So we had to build the capacity of these NGOs and also support them, handhold them so that we could implement the program. And I must say that all the NGO partners that we have, they have been very open-minded and they have accepted the challenge, actually molded themselves, and they have taught us a lot in this development sphere. As far as my colleagues and co-workers are concerned, they have provided us with so much insight, and I think that has paved way for ever evolving program that we have. So it's not stagnant at all. Like every year and every quarter, we have so many new ideas to enhance whatever we are already doing. The professional colleagues who are there, I think they are a great bunch of people who have networked very well. The information technology, the social media has helped a lot to ensure that there is a lot of networking, partnership, convergence of resources that is happening, a lot of collaboration. And I think in that sense, all of us from the rural community to the NGO partner to my colleagues and my professional co-workers, everybody has grown in leaps and bounds.
And how has your work changed, like yourself personally? What personal changes you have observed in yourself?
First of all, I have really learned to value whatever I have. I value the environment when I have seen so many things that can go wrong, and still we are able to, have things in balance in the environment. I really value that. I value the resources that are available because we know that we can make use of available resources to innovate and to be creative. So I think I've definitely become more creative, more aware of the environment, and I also respect diversity more than ever through my experiences. Every individual who are similar, different, bring a lot of value and richness into this life. So, as a person, I think I have been greatly influenced to be more balanced and to value everything around me, every person around me. Uh, Definitely, it's made a huge impact.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Now, because of this pandemic, everyone is going through troubles and worries. So, what struggles are you going through because of this pandemic, professionally as well as personally?
Um, I think really there's no personal trouble as such, except that there is no house help. But I don't think that's something to complain about. When I see that there are migrants, the rural communities, which are going through a lot of issues regarding their livelihoods, and so many other logistical and practical issues, I think my little trouble is no trouble at all. So I'm definitely not complaining. Professionally, I would see this whole thing very positively. I think it's a great opportunity for us to reflect. It's a great opportunity for us to, change our gear, change our track, and see how we can, in this vast landscape which is available to us at Suzlon CSR, the geographical areas of like 9 states to union territories, so many thousands of villages. What is it that we can do now to ensure that we are able to reach out to people and ensure that they are able to get through this pandemic with the least possible suffering and impact? So I definitely look at it as a great opportunity, and something that we have already started working on ground to deliver the necessary support and to work with the community to look for solutions which are sustainable and can make a great impact on their livelihoods. So I think this pandemic is a great opportunity for all of us to work and be creative and make a great impact.
Right. Thank you so much, Doctor. Again, now talking about self-care. Sometimes things don't go as we plan, or even outside we see there's so much trouble. And you working with rural community, you must have been like you must have seen a lot of negative things which affect you also. So how do you take care of yourself?
So actually, I value health a lot, and I invest more than 2 hours every day in my mental and physical health. I'm a yoga practitioner. I meditate and also do physical exercise. All of this, along with some spiritual insights that I have gathered over a period of time, really helped me to be stable, to be calm yet concerned, and to take a holistic view of things without getting into a panic mode. I also try to ensure that there is no burnout because of a lot of negative issues that come about. You see a lot of suffering amongst the people with whom you interact. There are lots of stories of suffering that you hear. And in all of this, it's very important to stay stable. So this yoga, meditation, and a few spiritual insights have definitely helped me to stay healthy. I believe a lot in drinking a lot of water and also taking care of my diet. Try to be as close to nature as possible in your dietary habits, and that definitely helps a lot and heals you and cleanses you and keeps you healthy. Also, my team members, I always ensure that their first job is to keep themselves healthy, and only then they can serve the communities, serve their families, and be available for their colleagues. Otherwise, you are not good enough, and you are not giving your 100% if you're not healthy. And actually, being healthy and stable is in balance with nature. It's only when the balance between you and the nature is upset, the environment and you is upset, that some ill health creeps in. So just like nature keeps its balance, there is a rhythm, there is harmony. We also need to take care of our body, mind, and relationships so that we can be similarly harmonious. And I know my team members always say that in the review, I am also taking a review of whether they are doing their exercise and whether they are taking care of themselves and their families. I make it a point to ask them because that's something I really value.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Jasmine, for this inspiring and enriching conversation. I'm sure our viewers also must have learned a lot and will, after following whatever you have said, I'm sure a lot of people will do and try to make that little shift and that change and try to find simple solutions to big problems which we are facing. And before we sign off, what would you like to tell to our viewers who are watching, who have maybe not started their journey yet with respect to environment and sustainability? They want to do something, they don't know where to start, what to do. What would you like to tell them?
So, first of all, I really feel that whatever we are doing at Suzlon is something which is significant, but yet a small drop in the ocean. And there are so many other people who are doing great job and great work, and I'm myself am inspired by so many of them. But still, a little something which I would like to share with the viewers is that first of all, whatever I have said in this whole discussion is not my own. It is something that has come because of people who have influenced me along the way, organizations who have contributed to this journey and learning, and especially my current team members, whom I really feel I'm very privileged to work with. They are Kitab and Kishan, Deepak and Dilip, Murugan, Pooja Prasad, Ramakrishna and Ram Kumar. They have really been with me over the years and helped me to gain whatever I have. And I think that for the viewers, it's a good idea to have a good team. First of all, to work on any issue, that's very critical. And as you go along, take people along, any stakeholder, once you ask them what is their view, and the journey then begins. And their view, their ideas, they being part of the solution can make a huge difference as to whether you're going to succeed or not. And I think that is the experience that I have got over this journey. I really value each person who has been there, and each organization along with me, who have contributed to this understanding. And I feel that each one of us should take people along and also look for solutions very locally.
True. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Thank you so much, Dr. Jasmine, for joining. Next week we will be back again. We have a storyteller next week along with us. We will be having conversation with them. Stay tuned. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you for having me.